Hey guys, so Baumhardt here. So what I've got here today is a little knife I'm working on. I'm trying to get the blade off of the handle so that I can quench it, and it's not coming off. So basically, I carved the handle down, carved it out, or drilled out the hole for the tang with just a regular, drill bit, and then fit the tang into that hole by just tapping it on the anvil here. And right now, this is solid as a rock. There's no movement, no wiggle at all. And the only way to get this off is to hit this on here, and that's the only way to get that off. And it's not easy to do. I mean, it takes quite a bit of work at this point to get that off of there. So it's kind of led me to the theory that maybe with these short, narrow tangs on these Viking knives that you see in museum photos and all that, that maybe they just friction fit the blades to the handles. I really don't see why they couldn't do that. And over time, with the changing seasons and all that, wear and tear, I'm sure it would, loosen up. But you just make a new handle or get some pine pitch or hide glue and get that in there. So if I don't know that we have evidence for pine pitch or hide glue. We know that they knew how to do that, I guess, but well, that was technology that was available to them at the time. But we don't know for certainty how they actually secured the knives to the handles, and I think only us kind of knife makers are really the ones that care about that kind of thing. But I just thought that was an interesting point, and from doing this kind of blacksmithing like I do, it's almost a form of experimental archaeology. Not exactly, but that's the way I think of it anyways. But so that's something I just sort of kind of stumbled upon. Thought I'd share it with you guys. There are knives and saws and tools where the tang goes all the way through the handle, and then the end piece is kind of bent over to hold the handle on, or they may have a cap and they kind of make that tang into a rivet to hold it all together. And so you look at that and you think, okay, that's a strong design. That handle's not going to fall off. But not all of them are like that. There's quite a few that have got short little tangs that are fairly narrow. And so I used to think that those tangs just kind of corroded away or rusted away over time. But since there's so many of them, it leads me to think that those were made deliberately on purpose like that, because there's knives that the rest of the knife is in fairly good condition. There's some corrosion, but it just doesn't make sense that whole half of a tang would be eaten away or something like that, because they just look too short to be a full tang. So let me get this off of here and I'll show you what this one looks like. Okay, so I got the blade off of there, and you can see what that looks like. So it's this is what I'm talking about. So the tang is very short in comparison to the rest of the blade, and it kind of necks down and narrows out right there. There's the hole in the handle, and so we'll fit that on there, tap it down, and now we're back in business. I mean, that's once again locked down there. So hitting it on the log like this, there's still no wiggle. I mean, this is not the way to get this thing off of here. Now, this isn't sharp or anything like that, so it's just bouncing around. But I mean, that's locked down there good and solid. So get my hammer. So tapping it, some sort of hard edge like this is the only way that I can come up with to get this off. So still solid. There we go. Got it. And that's chewing up the handle, so I'm going to have to clean that up. But I won't be doing that again. Well, here's a look at that finished knife. I just want to show you guys after watching that video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know it was a short one. So for the fit of the tang into the handle, I did put a little bit of epoxy in there, so it's not just the friction fit holding it in, but it certainly doesn't hurt. So even though there's no handle pins or anything like that, between the glue and then the friction of the wood fitting to the tang of the knife, I mean, I think this is going to hold up just fine to any sort of hard use that you throw at it. I mean, even batoning, which is kind of like the worst thing that you can do to a knife, I mean, I think what's going to happen before this comes out is that just the wood itself is going to break. So, and I don't believe that the Vikings were doing that with their knives. you know, because they probably were using their axes. But if they wanted to, you know, I'm sure you could get away with doing that. A little more about this knife. It's a made out of a coil spring, if you hadn't already guessed that from some of my previous work. It is kind of a Viking inspired knife. A little bit of a drop point there. I was kind of going for a C-axe design, maybe something a little more Anglo-Saxon, but this is how it came out, and I'm actually really happy with it. Nice sharp edge, simple handle. This is actually an ash handle. I believe it's green ash, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But what's really neat is that this is just linseed oil on this wood. There's no dark stain or anything like that. It was just the raw wood and the linseed oil. So this ash is just a beautiful wood. And then the finish on here, this is all done on the work sharp grinder, and then this is a brushed finish from the wire wheel on my bench grinder. So that's what kind of gives it that kind of dull storm cloud appearance. And then here's the sheath for it. This was a raw kind of natural leather color, that kind of pinkish color of the raw leather, and I stained this with birch oil and then linseed oil on top of that. Really snug fit on this, just fits on your belt. But yeah, overall just a really handsome knife. Happy with the way this one turned out. And if you think you'd like to own this, it's going to be up for sale on my Etsy web store. There's going to be links at the bottom and the top of the page here if you want to check this one out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, be more Viking.